Hi, everyone. I wanted to make this video to thank you all for your effort on the first set of reading questions. They're all really good. Just to take a look at each of those and note the most successful responses I got. The first one asked you to think a little bit about why it is that Bazerman starts by saying that the writer's never alone. Now, universally, we saw the answer to this, right? It comes down to the fact that in order to write anything, the writer has to be thinking about who it is they're writing to, why they're writing that way. In other words, then, even if we are physically alone, part of the act of writing actually necessitates our willingness to see the other person, the reader, the person who will eventually get the writing we're producing, and to think about that person so clearly that they might as well be there with us. Following that, the next question had to do with the metaphor of the conversation in academic writing. If there was a little bit of misunderstanding of this, sometimes the misunderstandings came from just answering this question as talking about metaphor in general. There were a couple of us, I think, who sort of thought, oh, okay, metaphor. I've heard of metaphor before. Let me write about how metaphors and figurative language can be good, which is part of it, I guess, but it's the specific metaphor of the conversation, right? The deal was here that we wanted to talk about the way that the metaphor of the conversation actually informs the way that Bazerman goes about his discussion of the relationship between reader and writer in chapter one. Moving onward from that, number three, I think, was again something that we universally saw the answer to, the hypothetical situation in regards to the bicycle and the accident and the three different audiences we'd be writing to was designed to point out how, with a different audience, a piece of writing might look one way one day, but then we address it to someone else and it looks quite different and works quite differently. Following that up, number four, asking about what the real problem of writing is. If there was any misunderstanding on that, it might have been from just reading that section a bit too quickly and assuming that Bazerman was just sort of griping about the fact that the problem is when we fill the page and just think about that. He does acknowledge that. He talks about the fact that at first maybe we think that that's what the real problem of writing is. But then he goes on to say that really it's something else. The best way that writing can be useful and creative and something that we want to put our care into is if we think about the real problem of writing as something to solve and something to be as creative as possible as we solve. Next, number five asked about repeated situations and similarities between reasons for writing. I've got to reword that question a little bit. It wasn't the clearest thing possible, but some of us did see this, right? Bazerman writes about the fact that we can best learn from the writing that we do by seeing the ways in which aspects of one piece of writing are going to be repeated over and over in other pieces. So if you did see that, thanks. And again, if you didn't, I'm going to take the blame for that. I think that the question wasn't as well worded as it could have been. Then finally, we all came up with useful ways of addressing writing assignments number one, where you had to write me a quick message about a piece of work that you would need to hand in late. So overall, again, thank you for the effort you put into these. In general, submissions that were more successful tended to develop their answers more. It's a really risky thing, only writing a sentence or two for any one of these responses, just because of the fact that if you're only writing so little, well, you got to have your fingers crossed that every single word you write is absolutely correct. Think of a scattershot approach here working a little bit better. More developed answer is more likely to get credit, even if not every single part of it's as accurate as it needs to be. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. And I will be in touch with other video content soon. Take care.